Good morning, everyone. Meteorologist Tawana Andrew here with a check of what's going on across our region. Happy 4th of July. We're going to be keeping an eye on everything going on across the region as we continue throughout the day. Ooh, let me change this. It's technically not an alert day. Let me not confuse everybody. Hold on one second. But yeah, what we're looking at right now, some more of that sunshine around for this morning for many of us. Overall, things are looking good to start off the day with, of course, all of that sunshine around our region, and we're seeing some rain in other spots. So a lot to watch as the day goes along. So for those of you waking up this morning and seeing things, a little rainy in your area, a little cloudy in others. Hey, let's just keep an eye on the radar, right? As we continue throughout the region. So, what we're dealing with right now, of course, those clouds overhead in some spots, but sunshine in others. And good morning to everyone across the area. We are keeping an eye on not just the rain, but of course, as Nancy puts it, fireworks for free. We're keeping an eye on that for those of you heading out and about for today. So let's just look at what we're dealing with across the area as I try to figure out how to get these things to work for me. Seems like technology does not like me today. But what we're looking at right now, of course, some more. Here we go. See, I can figure out technology. It is Thursday. It's been a long week for me. This is my 5th day in a row. But what we're seeing right now across the region, a flood watch in place as we wait for more of nature's fireworks. We have the flood watch in place for those of you in Du Bois County, in Orange County, Crawford County, Perry County, Harrison County, and Floyd County in Indiana. And then for those of you in Kentucky, what we're looking at, Breckinridge County, Meade County, and also for those of you in the Louisville Metro, all underneath the flood watch for today. So yes, it is going to be a very interesting Independence Day. And it's been a very interesting 24 hours across the region. Here is why we have that flood watch in place. You see that little streak of yellow going from Louisville over towards Jasper with a little dot of red in the middle? Yeah, that's where we've seen in the past 24 hours about 2 to 6 inches of rain in just the past 24 hours. So we've been dealing with a lot of rain across the region for today. So in the past 24 hours as well in many locations. We've also seen some pockets of rain closer to 2 inches in parts of Henry County and for those of you in Hart County too. So we're going to be watching everything very closely for today because flooding is our main concern. Now, Samantha has a question for us. What time is it supposed to stop raining? Well, in some places it hasn't stopped raining just yet, while others it hasn't started for the day. So we're watching every part of wave country. For those of you south of 64, so from Louisville south, you've barely seen anything fall this morning, while areas further to the north are dealing with some more of that rain. So let me go back and let me show you where we're seeing some more of that rain still coming down. We're watching mainly southern Indiana. This is where the rain has been heaviest and most consistent so far today. So for those of you basically from Jasper over towards Bedford, Paoli, Medora, you're dealing with the heaviest rainfall right now. And that basically means we're going to be watching for flooding threat in your area for this morning. But this is all pushing off towards the northeast. So thankfully, we're going to be gradually drying out. It's going to take some time, but we're going to get there. For those of you from Salem over to Freetown to Seymour, you're also seeing some more of that moderate to at times heavy rain. Now, we're also looking into Clark County, parts of Jennings County, more of that rain coming for you. But where we haven't really seen a lot of that rain so far today, in Kentucky, but the heavy downpours right now near Bedford and Pendleton and over into Franklin County, especially near Flag Fork and Peaks Mill. So yes, the heavy rain moving through some parts, but not all of wave country right now. Those of you further to the south are getting in on some quiet conditions to start off the day. Not a bad start to our Independence Day. But we have this front now draped across our region, which means we officially have the train tracks in place for these storms to just ride along as we head throughout the rest of the day. So, hey, as Nancy and Samantha have pointed out, yes, Mother Nature says you can't afford a swimming pool. Here, free one for you. That kind of seems how it is, right? Samantha agrees. We're getting free fireworks and a free pool. Now, this is not the situation that you really want to be in for the 4th of July. We want sunny, dry, a little warm, get that summer feeling going on. But yeah, we asked for rain because we had the drought going on, especially in Indiana. And Mother Nature's like, hold up first. I'm going to give you that rain that you asked for. We're like, not this much. So yeah, this is the flooding concern is the main thing that we'll have to watch. St. Louis for the past 2 days, just like us, has dealt with round after round after round of rain. And we're going to see all of that moving towards us as the day goes along. With temperatures, though, especially for those of you further to the south where you haven't seen any rain so far today, you're warm, already seeing some low 80s for your current temperatures, a little bit cooler further to the north, but still very muggy. I call it a disrespectful amount of humidity across the area because we just have so much moisture in the air. And of course, the storms as we head throughout the rest of the day are going to feed off of that moisture. Here's the change. And I think I saw somebody bring this up. Carissa, yes. So I saw we got added to a 5% risk for Taurus. Cause for concern. I am not expecting anything in terms of like a widespread tornado threat. I know if anybody sees anything in terms of like that tornado threat, they're like, oh, great, we're going to have an outbreak. No, that's not what we're looking at all for today. What we are going to see, though, this line of storms moving in later on this morning into the afternoon, and that is going to help to bring damaging wind threat and the potential for some heavy rain. That's my main concern, the heavy rain, especially with some strong wind gusts. You can end up in a situation where the ground is so saturated that it topples the trees, especially if the wind is moving in a direction that the trees are not used to. So we'll have to watch the saturated ground coupled with the heavy rain and the impacts that can have as the day goes along. But yes, we do have that 5% chance for tornadoes. Keep in mind, we usually have 0, so that's why that's a little bit more significant. But overall, yes, we can see an isolated spin up here and there, but it's mainly that damaging straight line wind threat and the heavy rain. And that's for those of you along and north of the parkways. But for those of you further to the south where the marginal risk is, I do not want you to get complacent either because you're able to warm up more than everyone else since you're going to be drier throughout the rest of the day compared to some other locations. And that can lead to a situation where you are dealing with some heavy downpours and some more strong storms in your area too. But hey, we're going to be watching everything. And I'm just going to be straight up and honest with you. The models have not been doing well with nailing things over the past couple of days. So this is going to be a now casting situation for us, which means we'll be watching the radar, trying to watch the evolution of things and updating the weather app accordingly as the day goes along. So don't be surprised if you see some changes popping up in the wave weather app throughout the day. Here's something I wanted to talk about. We talked about that severe threat in terms of the damaging winds and that chance for 1 or 2 spin up tornadoes is really the damaging wind threat. We're watching also the excessive rainfall outlook. So this basically is the National Weather Service focusing in on when we have and where we have, I should say, the best opportunity for the heavy rain and the flooding situation as the day goes along. That is mainly for those of you west of Louisville, where we've already seen the heavy rain, we've already seen concerns this morning, where we have the flood watch in place, basically lines up with that. Now, while Louisville may not be in that yellow, that slight risk for excessive rainfall, you still need to be paying attention because we know how the Louisville Metro is. It's just sometimes the drainage isn't great. And we end up with a situation where we have flooding. We saw that on parts of 64, the Waterston, 65 yesterday. And with a lot of people traveling, there we go. So we just want to make sure everyone is A-okay. So we've been seeing these scattered showers and thunderstorms so far this morning. And the graph model, so our in-house model, has actually been the most accurate compared to some of the other models in terms of what has evolved so far today. So that's the one I'm going to be leaning on a little bit more, but keep in mind, even this one hasn't been doing great either. So definitely a now casting situation. What it does show is that as we head into the late morning, so we get closer to 11 o'clock towards lunchtime, these thunderstorms start to race in from the west and northwest. And as they do so, we'll see these strong to potentially severe storms barreling into our region. This looks to be around lunch and into the early afternoon that we'll start to see some of these storms moving in. Notice what happens for those of you further to the south. It tries to push you into the upper 80s and low 90s for highs. How far we get into those upper 80s and low 90s will be fully dependent on how quickly these storms move in, 1, and 2, how dense those clouds are overhead. But I'm thinking mainly 80s across the region for highs today. Now, once we get into later on this afternoon, we see that batch of storms continuing to roll in. This is when we can see the heavy rain. This is when we can see the gusty winds and that potential for a spin up or two. Cannot rule that out, but that chance is low. It's there, but it's low. As we continue into the evening hours, seeing that drying trend closer to 5, 6 o'clock. Now, this is if the trends hold, then we'll be drier into later on this evening, which bodes well for the fireworks later on tonight. For things going on before that, like a lot of the events that we have going on at the waterfront, for parades going on across the area for today, we'll be watching the rain chances closely, but it does look like if we hold the trends, then a lot of those fireworks shows should be okay. But still, we have to watch to see how the afternoon evolves, because if things get stubborn, which they easily can in a setup like this, especially with the front draped across the region, we could have a situation where we just have slow moving training thunderstorms that are stubborn and do not want to leave. That's entirely possible. There's even a situation where in some cases in a setup like this, where these storms just feed off of themselves. They dump the rain, they use that same moisture to really build, and then they just stick over the same spot over and over and over again. So that's entirely a potential for today, and that's where that flooding threat comes into place, that training effect. So we'll have to watch for that throughout the afternoon and into this evening. Now, for those of you planning ahead for tomorrow too, it does look like most of the overnight will be quiet. I'm going to keep that isolated rain chance in the forecast for the overnight, though, not completely taking that out of our region. Then we'll get into your Friday morning, so scattered showers and thunderstorms around, a lot like what we dealt with this morning in Indiana. Certainly going to be expecting more of that for tomorrow morning, which I'll be on Sunrise with you to track all of that. Now, once we get into tomorrow afternoon, things are trending drier, because this is when that front starts to move through, and it will bring a few more of those isolated downpours. But for the second half of your Friday, things are trending drier, trending quiet, with highs in the 80s across our region. Now, once we get into Friday night, quiet. And there's a lot more of those 4th of July events going on for Friday night too. So we do want some dry weather at some point, and it looks like the second half of Friday is where that's at. Of course, I've mentioned the flooding threat a lot, and for a lot of us, we're not going to see a whole bunch of rain for today into tomorrow. We can see around half an inch to an inch of rainfall, but it's in those spots where we see repeated rounds of heavy rain. That's where we can see 2, 3, even more than that in terms of rainfall over the next 2 days. So yeah, flooding is something that I'll be watching closely. And of course, we're going to be keeping an eye on this too. This has been the big weather story for the past week. Hurricane Beryl, still a Category 3, now passing through portions of just areas of the Caribbean Sea south of Cuba. Winds still 120 miles per hour, gusts of 150 miles per hour. Now, here's the thing with this storm, is that it's still incredibly strong. A hurricane needs water of 80 degrees to really start to get going and to feed off of, right? You need that 80-degree water. And in this part of the Caribbean Sea, water temperatures are 82, 83, 84 degrees right now. So it has plenty of fuel going on, and that's something that we'll have to continue to watch as we head throughout the rest of the day and into tomorrow, because Beryl is expected to continue to weaken once we head into later on tonight into tomorrow morning and make landfall sometime overnight into Friday morning on the Yucatan Peninsula. So some parts of Mexico, Belize will be significantly impacted by this. The reason that this storm is expected to continue to weaken, despite the fact that it has all of that warm water, we have basically an upper level trough, that strong winds overhead, they're ripping apart the storm gradually. So without those strong winds, this most likely would still be a Cat 4 at least. But with those strong winds overhead, that is what's causing the system to fall apart. Now, once we get into Friday, it's going to weaken as it crosses over the Yucatan, get back into the Gulf of Mexico. Now, right now, the National Hurricane Center has it staying as a tropical storm before it makes landfall as potentially a Cat 1 storm. Here's the thing. If there's not enough of that wind shear, so not enough that upper level wind around, then what's going to happen with this system is that it's going to strengthen even quicker. And then you'll end up with a situation where it could be a Cat 1, Cat 2 as it makes landfall somewhere along the Mexico and Texas coastline. So a lot of the models is trying to show a little bit more of a curve to the north, impacting more of Texas. That's been a trend over the past couple of days. So that's something we'll continue to monitor, especially since some of that moisture may come our way. So as we get into next week, what's left of Beryl could be moving onshore, of course, in portions of Texas. And if the systems line up correctly, we could be tapping into some of that tropical moisture once we get towards Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So we'll have to monitor how the fronts and Beryl all line up, because that will influence our rain chances for next week. So overall, and keeping an eye on those rain chances for today. For those of you who missed out, we're still talking about a little bit more of that rain around for portions of Indiana. That's where some of the heaviest rain is as of right now. So let me go back to the map for you for those of you who are just tuning in. The heaviest rainfall so far today has been in southern Indiana. This is where we've seen some of that heavy rain coming down in portions of anywhere from Du Bois County and Crawford County, where we had, of course, the flood advisory earlier today, to portions now of Lawrence County, into Jackson and Jennings County, and even into Kentucky, into Trimble, Carroll, Henry counties. You're also getting in on the heavy rainfall for today. So yes, I know a lot of people have those plans for the 4th of July. So I'm going to pull this up for you so you can kind of time out things across the area. So once we head into the late morning and afternoon, especially once we get closer to lunchtime, so closer to noon, this is the point where I want you to be like, I should probably check the wave weather up and see what's going on, because this is when we can start to see more of those showers, thunderstorms racing in from the northwest. These can produce some very heavy rain, some gusty winds across our area as they move through. So don't be surprised if we have one or two of those thunderstorms being warned, having those severe thunderstorm warnings coming out. Then we'll continue into the afternoon hours. Those storms are going to race off towards the south and east. Then we'll gradually dry out. So that's if everything off to our west continues at the current speed. This is the timing that we're looking at for today. So once we get into later on tonight, hey, Ashley, I was waiting for your comment. Good morning. Yes, for tonight, you should be okay to go to sleep. We're going to be watching for some isolated thunderstorms across the area. But for some of you, the loudest thing is not going to be the storms, it's your neighbors shooting off fireworks. So we'll be watching for that once we head into later on tonight. And also with the fireworks, make sure your pets are secure. Make sure they're okay. Make sure you're kind to any veterans that may have PTSD as well. And also be kind to the people in your neighborhood who have to be up at 12:30 in the morning. I'm going to raise my hand for this one. Just be courteous to your neighbors if you're going to be setting off fireworks. Remember, anything that shoots up is illegal in Jefferson County, Kentucky. Just going to make sure I remind you of that, because some of y'all do it anyway. But overall, it's mainly about the rain, the flooding threat, and the potential for some gusty winds. So I'm going to head back out. I have to head into a meeting this morning and update our staff about what's going on in terms of our rain threat or severe weather threat for today, so we can plan ahead for later on this afternoon. But other than that, I'll be on for midday for you, and I'll be updating that wave weather app. Ryan Hoke will be in for later on today. So one of the two of us will be here in-house to make sure everything that is okay in terms of severe weather. And if anything becomes severe, then we'll pop on and keep you updated throughout the rest of the day. We do not have a normal 3 o'clock. So if anything happens in that time frame, more likely, and unless it becomes incredibly severe, Ryan will be streaming later on this afternoon, keeping you updated. So a lot to watch for today and tomorrow. I know everybody has outdoor plans for the 4th of July. So everybody eats an extra burger, a hot dog for me. Think of me. So I'm going to sleep early this afternoon. But as we look ahead to the weekend, things are looking beautiful then. And we'll have to watch to see how the remnants of Beryl influence our forecast once we get into next week. So everybody have a marvelous day. Enjoy your 4th of July. Enjoy the warm weather that we're going to see for today. And make sure you stay weather aware with these storms coming through for later on this afternoon, especially. So you'll have a good day. I will see you on midday.